Hello everybody, my name is Tiffany, I'm the Tipsy Artist, and today we are going live and painting our beautiful headdress. So I've got mine all traced out. Let me show you the model really quick. I've got it right over here. So this is our beautiful model, and I've got it displayed on the Facebook page today, and of course this will also always be up on our website, but this is what we're going after right here. And then let me go ahead and show you all of the awesome supplies. Okay, so I've got my brush set here, and then I have paints. All right, and then of course the canvas, and all of this is your painting pack that comes online, tipsyartist.com, so you can order whatever supplies you need. Oh, and also templates. So this makes it really easy. You can do all the tracing, and I always use a Sharpie. This really helps me have a nice firm line around all these shapes, makes the process a lot easier. All right, now to get started. So normally I start with the background first, but today I've got this beautiful white background with this particular design that allows for all the bright, brilliant colors to really pop for the headdress itself. So no background work today, so that makes it a little bit easier. So I'm going to start with just mixing in some beautiful colors so that we can go ahead and get some bright, beautiful colors into the headdress itself. So I'm going to start with the lighter colors first, and then migrate to the dark at the very end because I want to make sure that none of the darks muddy up the light colors. That's really important. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and got all my beautiful paints here. And so I'm going to go ahead and start by mixing up some colors. So the first color that I want to go ahead and start with will just be a really pretty turquoise color. So I want to go ahead and use my mama brush, and I've got my blue and my green and my white, blue, green, and white. So I'm going to go ahead and mix all those together, and this will give me a really pretty turquoise color. All right, so I've got a nice mix on that, and again, that's just about equal parts, so just blue, green, and white. We'll mix all that together, and then I'm going to go ahead and load up my paintbrush, and I do want to make sure that as I'm applying this first coat of color, see I've got a nice thin line edge on the end. That way I can do nice fine lines to go ahead and get really good control and precision around doing the edge work on each one of those little feathers in there. So I'm going to go ahead and start. It doesn't really matter, and I'm going to mix it up. You'll notice that my painting today will probably be quite a bit different than when I started with the model, because I'm going to just get creative and use all kinds of really fun colors here. So I'm going to go ahead and start. Let's just do this one here with some turquoise. Kind of random, I know. I don't know why I didn't do the top one, but I think it's because I love turquoise so much that I wanted the biggest feather to have my favorite color. So I looked for the biggest feather here that I could see. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and fill into these shapes here, and I'm going ahead and cutting in and around the tracing that I did in the beginning. I'm going to have some roses in there later, but for right now I'm going to go ahead and get these bright colors into these shapes. All right, so there is my awesome turquoise. And if I spread it out a little bit, I can also have this happen somewhere else. So I'm going to go ahead and do another little layer of turquoise in here. And again, when you're doing the edge work, remember to hold it more like a pencil. And then when you fill in, then you want to turn it over to the side. All right, so that's very pretty. Let's see, I'm going to do one more with this color. So I'm going to go ahead and come into this shape here. So we have a lot of beautiful turquoise happening now. So let me go ahead and work in some other colors to give us some variety. So I'm going to go ahead and put that paintbrush into the bucket of water. Now let's go ahead and get some, let's see, let's do some hot pink. So I've got some red, and then, hello, my sweet daughter sends her love. I saw a big old heart pop up. I love you too, sweetie. All right, so I have red and white. There's my lovely hot pink. And also, my daughter Lynn should be with Olivia today, so please tell Miss Olivia I said hello. Howdy, good to see you too. All right, so I've got this all mixed up, and then I'm going to go ahead and paint into these sections here. So I like this one here to be a lovely hot pink. And I'm going to go ahead and just push that all the way through here. And then I might want one of these to have some hot pink too. I'm going to get a bigger brush though, because this is super tiny. It's kind of driving me nuts. It's too small. All right, so I'm going to load up a bigger brush, a little bit more of that hot pink, and I'm going to have that come through in here. And that sound is my lovely puppy dog. Miss Ira says hello to everybody. And I did get a little bit sloppy there. I'll go over that here in a minute, but sometimes if you have a little bit of overpaint, you can correct it later. So I'm going to do that. So I've got some really fun light pink happening there, or hot pink. Now I want to go ahead and come in for some other colors here. So I'm going to do, let's see, let's do some gold. That's also a really pretty light color. All right, so I've got my gold paint and then a little bit of white. So I'll go ahead and push that in. You might hear my husband outside too, with the air conditioner repairman. So we're losing all of our air conditioner units this week. It's so fun. I'm just like, oh, okay. Yeah. Just in time for summer. I'm so excited about that. All right, so now we've got really pretty gold. Let's see, let's go ahead and do some really pretty red. That'll be really pretty in there too. So I'm gonna give this guy a bath. And then go ahead and get some bright, vibrant red going. And I'm going to do some of that red right up here. So remember to hold it like a pencil to get the nice line edge for the top. And then as you fill in, remember to turn that handle more over to the side. And if it does get a little bit tiny in here, which it will, I've got some kind of challenging cutting work to do, you can go ahead and pick up a smaller brush and go ahead and do some of that smaller work with a smaller brush. Like Little Buddy's a really great choice in here too. I'm going to go back to the big brush so I can get better coverage and not see so many brush strokes happening. All right, so there's our beautiful red, and let's see. I'm getting to that point where I'm almost down to just the dark feathers that are going to be left. I do want to do some of, I like some brown. I've got that in the model and I think that's really pretty. So I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of brown here. And I don't have it all done brown. What I have here is a little bit of a chevron pattern happening. The sign on your hat is a mirror image. I know, right? So I don't know what it's saying. Yeah, I don't know how to fix all that. That's I don't know. I don't know how to fix that. That's a thing. My dad always tells me that too. He says, your words are backwards. I'm like, oh, good. So for this is only going to be on Facebook for right now, I think. I'm sure I'll add it to YouTube later. But you'll always be able to access this video. We'll leave it up forever, so. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and push in this brown. And then I'm going to go ahead and do a little line here right through the center. So I'm going to go ahead and do just a little bit of the chevron print. So I'm just going to go ahead and paint this on and a little bit of a diagonal. And I'm actually pretty loose and free about it. I don't have to worry too much about it being super, super perfect. I don't mind a little bit of this being a little bit just kind of doesn't have to be too perfect is what I'm saying. So I'm just kind of being, I don't know, just kind of free with it. Howdy! Yeah, that's okay. If you miss the beginning, that is totally fine. Once it's done recording, you can always go back and watch this video just over and over again as much as you want, or you can rewind it too. Rewind, fast forward, all that good stuff. While it's still live, you won't be able to, but once it gets done recording, it will just be on Facebook as a video, so you can always access it whenever you want. All right, yay! Okay, so we've got some really pretty brown chevron happening. Digging that, that looks awesome. And then I do have some black that I want to continue to work into these feathers here, but that's a really dark color, so I want to wait and put that on later. So I'm going to still keep it really light, get all of our light colors in first. All right, so I'm going to continue on with some of these really pretty roses. Howdy, howdy, we miss you too. And just, yeah, as a reminder, everybody, if you're just now hopping on, this video will always be up for you. You can always just rewind or pause it and just, you know, watch it at your leisure, and you get all the information you need that way too. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start to mix up. Let's do some really pretty lavender now. So I'm going to do a little bit of this purple and then a little bit of the white. I need to get some clean white here. So let's see. Let's get a little white off to the side. All right, a little bit of white, a little bit of purple. And this will give us a really pretty lavender color. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and push this into these rose shapes. And at first, roses look like big, lumpy circles. And I want to scatter this a little bit so that all the lavender's not all together. So I've got some of those. Happy with that. So now I'm going to go ahead and push in some of the lighter colors here. All right, so now I want to do a little bit of some coral. So I'm going to pick up a little bit of orange, a little bit of the red, and then also a little bit of the white. So coral is orange, red, and white. Orange, red, and white. Those are so pretty. I love this color. My green is running into it. That would not be pretty. I'm going to avoid that. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do some coral here. here. All right, and then I think I'm a little pop of gold right there too. All right, so I'm going to do some of that gold and white. All right, yay, I like that. Okay, so now I need to go ahead and work in a little bit of the base of the butterfly. So I'm going to go ahead and do some gold there too. And I've got some thin areas in here, so I'll go ahead and use the edge side of the brush to go ahead and work in and around these shapes here first. And I'm actually going to switch over to Little Buddy. It'll be a little bit easier. Whoops. All right, so this is my Little Buddy brush. And pretty tiny in here, so I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the gold paint with this Little Buddy brush, and I'm going to go ahead and continue finishing in those little areas. Again, just holding that brush more like a pencil to do the detail work, and then when you want to get better coverage over the surface, just remember to turn that handle a little bit. And then in the center, I'm going to go ahead and do some red. All right, I had a little bit too much water in my brush, so I had to go ahead and dry it off really quick because I do not want to have a water run. That would not be good, because water runs can look like mascara runs on your canvas, or they can actually erase through paint. So I want to try to avoid that at all costs. So I had to dry it off a little bit, and then I'll reload the brush as I've done here, and then I'll go ahead and go back into that paint and then start to go ahead and fill this in. Yay! Okay, so beautiful butterfly is happening. And then I want to add some color down here, and these beautiful feathers that are happening. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and mix up something a little bit different here. I'm going to do a little bit of the cobalt blue with the purple and the white. All right, so purple, blue, and white. Purple, blue, and white. Love this. So I'm going to go ahead and do one of the feathers in here as that color. Alright, loving that. Okay, I can also, I'm going to go ahead, I was going to do this black, but I think I'm going to go ahead and pull in, I'm loving this color so much, I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of this over here. Awesome. Okay, so we're getting really close to having a lot of our brights in. And on this one, I want to go ahead and do more of a neutral gray. So let's go ahead and show you how to mix that up. This is an easy color mix here. So this is, got my black on hand. I've got black, and then I need a little bit more white. All right, so a little bit of white, a little bit of black, mix those two together. And this will give us a really pretty soft light gray. And I'm going to go ahead and pull this into this shape here. Okay, let's see. Now we need to do some pretty light green. It's looking really pretty, isn't it? I like all the bright colors. Looks like candy. All right, so now I need to go ahead and mix up a really pretty light green color. So I am going to do that really pretty emerald green and then some of that white. So green and white. All right, very bright, very pretty. And then I'm going to use this for the little tiny feathers that are happening here. So I've got feathers that are, not feathers, leaves. Sorry about that. All right, so little leaves that are coming in and around the roses. And then the basic shape on this, actually let me show you on a plate. Make sure it's nice and dark and contrasting so you can see. But basically it looks like you make a parentheses and then another parentheses. And then you just go ahead and fill that in. And of course I have a lot of little tiny ones up there too. So you can make it really tiny. And I always like to kind of put them together in little pairs at least, so they really start to look like leaves at that point. But that's the basic shape of it. And so I'm going to make sure and place these all around my pretty little roses up here. You can also do turquoise leaves. Those are also really pretty. You can be a little bit heavier handed with more of the dark emerald green too in the mix so that it's not so light. It's just up to you. Okay, getting really close here. All right, lots of pretty leaves are popping all around the bouquet of beautiful roses happening on the headdress. And we're also getting really close to being done with all of our light, bright colors. So it's getting to that time where I need to go ahead and start to work in the darks. So I've got some really pretty browns and blacks that are really beautiful and stunning when you start to place those in, especially that lovely contrast that happens. So I'm going to switch over to my mama brush now. And then I'm going to go ahead and start to fill into this shape with some of the black. And I'll do a little mix of some dark charcoal gray and then also some black here. So I'm going to start with, again, lightest first. And we've got this shade in here, which is just a dark charcoal color. So again, this is a little bit of white with the black. And I've got a little bit of pattern happening up here too, but it is getting small. So I'm going to go ahead and use my little buddy brush, and still using that dark charcoal color. I'm going to go ahead and work in that pattern work. This was in the template, and it's optional. You can do one solid color if you want, or you can optimize the pattern that you saw in the template and go ahead and work into that pattern too. So that's what I'm going to go ahead and do here. Okay, that looks awesome. Now I'm going to switch over to the black, and I'll be working back and forth between my little buddy brush and the mama brush, using mama whenever I can in a much larger area so that I get better coverage over the surface, but sometimes I do have to use my little buddy and he works into a small area, and I need to make sure that these guys are dry. So I'm going to go ahead and wipe them off really well, because if you do have too much excess water in the brush, then they will create, again, what kind of looks like a mascara run, and we don't want that, especially on this lovely white background. So, all right, so we're going to go ahead and push back and forth here into the black. And I'm holding the brush just like a pencil, using that line edge. That helps give me a lot of precision around these lines in this shape. Running into a little bit of a curve here though, so I'm going to go ahead and switch over to my little buddy brush. And he can make that little curve right there. And these are little bitty areas in here too, so I'm going to go ahead and use that smaller brush to work into those little tiny areas. And we have the body of the butterfly too, so we don't want to forget about that. So I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of black right in that center area. Okay, I have more black detail work to do, but I am going to make sure and do some of these roses too before I get too carried away with too much of that. So we still have the pattern work to come in over the top of the roses. Put those off to the side here in the water, and then let's go ahead and do pattern work over the roses. So this is a really fun technique. So I am using my little bit brush and then just some white paint. And the first pattern on top of the rose will look like you're making a parentheses or like a half circle. And then I place that around the rose in a circular pattern, and then I just keep working it inside the rose until I basically just run out of room in the center. So again, first half circle like that, or again, think of it like a parentheses. And just keep working that around that rose. And keep working in towards the center. All right, there's my first layer there, so I'm going to do another one here. Again, starting around the outside perimeter of the rose first. And then working towards the inside. All right, lovely first layers there. All right, next up will be darkest color. And then we basically just do a repeat on all that same pattern that we just did. Not as much, it's not nearly as heavy-handed as the white, but it's a little bit more, it's light, but definitely a repeat of the very same thing we just did, but this time we work in with the darkest shade. So for example, anytime I see a little lavender rose, I'm going to go ahead and bring in my little bit brush and the purple. I'm going to start with one little spot right in the center. That's that little shadow in the middle of the rose, and then I'm going to do some of those sweeping half circles. And this is where that repeat comes in. Basically just what you just did with white, but just a few little half circles of the darkest purple. So a little spot in the center for that shadow in the middle of the rose, and then just little sweeping half circle here. Awesome. Okay, so now we need to switch colors because we're working with a darker shade. So in here I want to make sure we've got really strong contrast. So I want to go ahead and come in with, let's do a dark red. Dark red right in the center. Make that little spot. There's my little shadow. Let's do another one there. And then I want to do just a few sweeping little half circles of the red. That creates those little shadows in the petals. Oh, I got one more here. All right, and now I've got a little bit of that contrast I need to create with the gold. So again, little bit brush, and I want to use the darkest gold here. And if you want to darken it up even more for a lot of contrast, you can actually add a little bit of brown to the gold. That'll make it even more intense. So a little spot right in the center. And then I'm going to lighten that up a little bit when I start to do the sweeping shadows. So definitely make it contrasting, but not that severe as what's happening with the shadow in the center. So I'm going to take that little bit brush and then just a few of those little sweeping half circles around the outside here and working in just a little bit on the inside. All right, so we have beautiful roses now. Those look awesome. Okay, so a few more details here to do. We still have a lot of line work to work in to really help a lot of these shapes really pop and come forward. But I also have a little bit of just white space here that I need to deal with in these little shapes here. So I actually, this was a hand-drawn element on here, and I did this with a Sharpie, and not really a template, but the basic shape of it is just to do thin little wispy lines, and you can work it out with a pencil first. There's a little bit more forgiveness there. And then the little shapes on the end are basically just tell yourself it's like making that parentheses, another parentheses, and then those connect. And then if you want to wiggle your hand a little bit through that process too, that gives it a little bit more of that organic quality, which is really nice. All right, so I'm going to go back to a smaller brush. I'm looking for my favorite. All right, that'll work. Okay, so I want some really pretty mixes of some turquoise here and the green, like more of like a really dark teal. So let's do some dark blue and the green for that darker teal color. And then we've got that turquoise already mixed over to the side. But to get this really dark look that I'm loving, just blue and green. So we're leaving a lot of that white out. And then I'm using my little bit brush. And then if your brush does get a little bit fat with the paint, that makes the bristles spread out. So what I'll do is I'll give it a little twist. That loads it up, but it also rotates the head of the brush into a nice fine point. All right, so go ahead and work into these little shapes here. And then as I work, I can kind of switch back and forth between a little bit of the turquoise and this dark teal that I've got mixed up. Awesome. Okay, so we have our turquoise and our teal mixed. And now let's start talking about a little bit more of the details that happen in here. So we have a fun dot technique that I'm going to teach you because I've got some fun little berries happening. But I use the handle for that. So there's my handle, and I'm going to go ahead and dip right into the red paint or whatever color you would like. Purple would also be really pretty too. So again, you see that right there on the end, and I'm going to go ahead and just push straight forward. And that makes for a very pretty little berry. All right, very nice. The other thing you can do with this that's really fun too is you can also make polka dot patterns within the feathers. So we can go ahead and do some of those too. So a nice contrast against turquoise is also red, so you can just dip right into that and then just do like a little line of dots. Let's do a couple more. Awesome. And you can do light too. Light on a darker color is also really pretty contrast. So let's do a little bit of that. Yay. Okay, and all right, so now I'm going to do some line work over the top of the feathers. So I need to make sure that I've got a nice thin line here that we can work in and around these shapes. And I'm going to come back in with black. So this is the mama brush. I'm going to go ahead and press back and forth here into the black. And then when you start to make these lines that come in and around each one of these, really helps nicely define it in the space. Now I can't take it all around all the areas that are curved, so I have to come back in with a smaller brush and do that. But it's a lot easier to go ahead and work out the long lines with the longer line of the brush. And I've got center lines coming through these feathers in front, so I'm going to go ahead and do a nice little center line there. Okay, so now I'm down to tinier details, and so I really need a smaller brush. So I'm going to come in with either my little bit brush or Little Buddy. These guys. All right, so I need to go ahead and work in around the tinier little curves. So I've got my little bit brush here first. I'm going to go ahead and rotate it into the paint, and that will give me a nice fine point. And this will help me come in and around like the butterfly, for example. Lots of little curves in that. So he was a little bit lost, but now with the outlines, he'll pop right back out to the front. And then we've got tip tops of little feathers here, so I want to make sure and define those. And then I'm also going to add a few little wispies at the top, little short diagonals that go down on each side, and that will help it look a lot more like a feather. I'll add a few little light diagonals here on the side as well, coming down. And I've got to tighten up these little ends here. Almost done. Okay, so now we have a little bit more pattern work to do, but I've got a lot more to work in with just pure white. So I'm going to take, yeah, this is a good brush to use. I'm going to take my Little Buddy here and the white paint, push that back and forth, and then I can actually use this as a stripe. Just a light sketch. So just doing little light sketches of white. And then we're down to just a few more little white highlights happening here on these little feathers. I'm just going to echo what we just did with the black, just another little white line that runs that course there. I think we're done. Okay, so this is looking really, really great. Lots of beautiful details happening here, lots of fun patterns, all kinds of ways for you to be creative. So we've got lots of fun techniques. Remember your little ways to make little dot techniques with your dots, or just using the line edge of the brush to make either thin lines, or you can turn it on the side and make these thicker lines in here too. We have lots of fun techniques there. But yes, we are done with our beautiful headdress. And so the most final touch is, of course, if you want to go ahead and sign your masterpiece. And since this is set up and dry and just pure white, I just use the Sharpie here. And I've got better composition for it to fit just right over here on this corner, which this is traditionally where it goes anyway, so that's just a nice fit all the way around. All right. So, ta-da! We are finished with our beautiful headdress, and we will definitely post this later so you can always see this and look at it. And again, all of our supplies are on tipsyartist.com, so you can always find those. We've got everything that you need, and you can always come back and look at all of the video from the very beginning as well. But we just want to thank you so very much for joining us today, and we will for sure see you. I paint a lot, sometimes every day, but for sure on the schedule, you'll see me this next Thursday as well at noon. So y'all have a wonderful rest of the day, and we'll see you soon.